Welcome to another episode of Into the Deep. Listen, we are on episode 3, and I'm really enjoying chilling out with y'all. I need you to do me a favor. Please go like, share, and subscribe. Become a deep diver. I want you to connect with us. I want you to be able to come into our personal space, into our community where we have counselors, we have therapists that's available for you after each episode. What that does is it doesn't leave you dry. It doesn't leave you high. It doesn't leave you at an emotional place, but you can come and we can continue to talk about some of the things that we're dealing with and discussing. I want you to go to our website, www.intothedeeppodcast.org. You will be able to find so much merch, so much information, and you can subscribe to become a deep diver. Listen, for the past 2 weeks, we've been dealing with healing emotional wounds. All right. We've been dealing with healing emotional wounds. The first episode, we dealt with identifying those emotional wounds. Last week, we dealt with understanding why did it form? What is it doing to you? And today we're going to be dealing with breaking generational curses that is connected to some of our emotional wounds and some of the things that we are dealing with. All right. So again, welcome to Into the Deep. I'm truly excited that you're here with us. And I know that this is getting ready to be a great episode for you. Today's conversation is not going to be surface level. Because truth is, some of the battles you are fighting right now didn't start with you. Some of your anxiety is inherited. Some of your relationship patterns are learned. Some of your emotional responses was formed in environments where survival was more important than safety. And I want you to deal with this and what many people call a spiritual attack is sometimes an inherited emotional pattern that was never processed in your family line. So today we're talking about it. We're going to deal with breaking generational curses and healing generational wounds. I believe that is something that a lot of people want to deal with. So for a minute, I'm going to slow down because I want us to redefine generational curse. I know a lot of people hear about generational curses and they say, well, generational curse is this and generational curse is that. But let's redefine, because most people hear generational curse, they immediately think something mystical, spiritual, external. They make it sound spooky and dangerous. But generational curse is often a repeated emotional pattern, a belief system, a coping mechanism, or a survival response. And the reason why I say it's a survival response, because sometimes it can be unconsciously transferred from one generation to a next. What do I mean by that? Trauma that was never processed, pain that was never named, grief that was never expressed, fear that was never challenged. Watch this. It didn't disappear. You adapted. That situation adapted in your life, and then it got passed down. Now, how did it get passed down? It got passed down through emotions, how your emotions were handled, how conflict were expressed, how love was modeled, how worth was measured, and how safety was maintained. You're going to deal with that generational wounds, and I want to deal with that. Sometimes you got to know what is a generational wound. A generational wound is an unresolved emotional injury. Easy. Think about it. It's an unresolved emotional injury that becomes embedded into family identity. So now the wound doesn't just hurt, it teaches. It teaches how to trust, how to communicate, how to connect, how to love, how to protect yourself. So if you grew up in a family where love came with control, silence, emotional withdrawals, or performance, then your nervous system has learned love feel anxious. Love requires earning. Love means walking on eggshells. Which why later in your life, peace feels unfamiliar. But chaos feel like connection. That's why you adapt more in a messy situation or in chaos than you do in a calm situation, because peace feels unfamiliar, because calm wasn't modeled in your life as safety. Mm-mm. That's why you got to deal with your eternal vows. One of the deepest ways generational wounds stay alive is through something called eternal vows. Eternal vows, watch this, are subconscious decisions. You made um you made a decision in a moment of emotional pain. Things like, I can't trust anybody. I have to take care of myself. It's all me. It's nobody supporting me. These are the things that you say when you have eternal vows and you did not deal with the emotional pain. My needs are a burden, so I don't want to tell nobody that I'm going through. I don't want nobody to know that my light bill is due. I don't want nobody to say they helped me. You're dealing with eternal vows. I'll never be vulnerable again. I'll never trust men again. I'll never get in a relationship again. Again, this is an emotional wound. Well, I gotta learn how to love again. They gotta earn my love. These are the things that we say. You made those decisions in survival. Come on. But now you're living by them. In relationships that requires vulnerability. So in this situation, some of you sabotage connections. We've done that. We've sabotaged connections, not because you want dysfunction, but because your younger self made a promise to stay safe. Can I say that? You made a promise. Here we go. Eternal vows. You made a vow to yourself. I'll never love again. I'll never do this. I'll never do that. I'll never trust people again. Now you live by it. So now this is what you call being safe. And what has happened is that we have normalized dysfunction. Can I say that again? We have normalized dysfunction. Over time, wounds become normalized. So now dysfunction has become tradition. Trauma has become culture. Silence has become loyalty. And healing starts to feel like betrayal. Because breaking the pattern means you have to do something your family never did. I hope that makes sense to somebody. The reason why we've normalized dysfunction is because we name what they minimize. We got to challenge what they normalize. But then you got to feel what they avoided. That's how it starts with you. That's how you can break this. You got to feel what they avoided. You got to challenge what they said was normal. One thing I always teach, we've done this even as children, and people, what stays in this house, what happened in this house stays in this house. And we've lived by that for years. But what happens when the trauma took place in the house? So we've normalized that, and then you go and live by that, and then you teach that to your children, you teach that to your family, then you teach that to your loved one. But then here's the good part about it. It's dysfunction. Yeah, it's dysfunction. So here are some signs. Y'all ready for some signs? Here are some signs that you are operating from inherited trauma. You might be operating from a generational wound. You feel responsible for everybody's emotions. You feel everybody pain. Come on. You feel everybody pain. You struggle with boundaries without guilt. You avoid conflict. These are signs that you are operating from inherited trauma. Which sometimes a lot of us, and I've done it before, we shut down under pressure. We feel uncomfortable being cared for. We overwork to feel worthy. Some of us, we feel unsafe in calm environments. They're not just personality traits. Come on. These things that I am giving you, they're not just personality traits. And you say, well, this is just my personality. I just shut down under pressure. This is just me. No. You're dealing with an inherited trauma situation. And watch this. And the problem is, the reason why you deal with this is because they are developed and they are adaptive survival responses. This is your survival response. This is how you survive. This is what you do to survive. So you can protect yourself. You can feel safe. You can feel, okay, I got it, but I need to make something clear to you. This is something that the church really don't want to talk about. Why prayer alone isn't enough. Some people say, you can pray it away, pray, pray, pray. And I am a person of prayer. Bro, I'll tell you, pray, get you some oil, cover, anoint. But then I stop and I say, sometimes prayer alone isn't enough. And this is important because, watch this, you can pray for peace. But if your nervous system was trained for survival, you will sabotage the peace that you prayed for. Because peace feels unfamiliar. Healing requires awareness and grieving. We don't want to grieve. Renaming beliefs, releasing eternal vows, learning boundaries, and building identity outside of survival mode. Healing begins with you. Here is the healing process to all of this. You got to name what hurt you. You got to put a name on the trauma, put a name on the pain. You've got to put a name on the offense, the affliction, the abuse, the hurt. Grieve what you didn't receive. Forgive what you cannot change. Release the vows you made in pain. Some of us got to learn how to create boundaries and protect the healed version of you. Because forgiveness without boundaries is permission for things to repeat. You are not weak for needing healing time. You're not weak because you need time to heal and time to restore and time to recover. No, you are brave. You are brave for refusing to pass down what broke you. Generational curses has to end here. When someone finally decides, I'm not going to live like my mother lived, I'm not going to live like my father, I'm not going to live like this person, I'm not going to live like that person, I'm not going to live like this person, I'm not going to do the same thing they did, I'm not going to at an early age have a child, I'm not going to at an early state of my life quit this and don't finish anything. We've got to get to a place where you've got to stop it with you. There's no excuse. Oh, I did this because my mom did, or I did this because my family. Oh, I'm this way because of this hurt. I'm this way. I'm bitter because they broke me or they hurt me. No. You got to stop being the excuse. When you make excuses, you then become the excuse. We've got to stop becoming victims in what we went through and realize that we are victorious through God because He allowed us to go through it, not to destroy us, but to direct us. You're not just healing for yourself, but you're healing for the child you once were. Watch this. And the generations that will never have to inherit your silence. If you're ready to stop coping, you're ready to stop suppressing, you're ready to stop hiding and start rebuilding from the inside out, then it starts right here. It starts now. So next week, we're going to deal with how we fester and go through our eternal brain, and how do we deal with what hurt, how it hurt. Next week is going to be real deep. And when I say deep, it's going to be real deep. We are naming some stuff that really offended us, affected us, traumatized us. Next week, I want to share my story with you. I want to share my story with you, how molestation was introduced to me at an early age. Then I want to deal with how it carried. Then I want to deal with how abandonment carried, because I was in the foster care system and I was adopted and I was in group homes, and how I felt like people didn't love me and rejection was so easy and abandonment felt normal and identity loss and identity crisis was convenient for me. I'm going to go through those steps next week and teach you how I was able to get free, deliver, get out of these things and break free and get healed. All right. Do me a favor. I'm so glad that you're able to just tune in this episode. I know some of you may say, hey, these episodes are too short. I know soon and very soon, our time frame will increase, but I do this because I don't want to lose your attention. Amen. And I know sometimes our attention span is not long. And I don't want you to sit at a 45-minute to an hour podcast and you only obtain 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But when we get closer, amen, to maybe our sixth episode, we will extend the length because the teachings are going deeper and deeper. But do me a favor, go to intothedpodcast.org, become a subscriber, become a partner with us, deep dive. This is not surface level. No, we're going deep. We're taking the Band-Aid off and we're going raw to figure out why it hurt you. What did you do? Why didn't you do this? Who, watch this, is responsible for this? Because sometimes it's not always somebody else. Sometimes it's you. So we're going to unpack that. But I thank you for being a part of this episode today, breaking generational curses and identifying where they come from. So I'm Raheem Moore. This is Into the Deep Podcast. And remember, this is where we dive to figure out what's going to happen next. Let's go.